Well, apparently there are 1.5 million reasons, pragmatic reasons, why he took this decision to go into the jungle with all those other celebs. But there's something else as well, isn't there? That he has ambitions to join the Tory party, does he? In opposition, if the Conservatives lose, he sees an opportunity for the Conservatives to move towards the right. We know someone we can ask all these questions of and more. He's a former advisor to Nigel Farage. Please welcome Gawain Towler. Hello, Gawain.
Hi there, Johnny. Yes, a bit of a light relief, I think.
Oh,
the country needs it.
Can we have it? And let's talk about Nigel Farage. How do you think he's done so far? Has it managed his expectations, do you think?
Yes, I think so. It's about straight down the line. He knew that. I think it was interesting. He was expecting to be given much harder time. When the time of the second challenge, he was expecting to be voted onto it, but it didn't happen. So I think he was basically expecting to get all the grief because of his history and because of his Marmiteness. But as it happened, it didn't happen. I think he's coming across well. He comes across as a weirdly normal bloke, which, if you read certain sections of the media, is surely impossible.
Now, this is my observation about Nigel Farage, because I also have come to know him a little bit, not as well as you perhaps, but I've had lots of cricket conversations with him. I've had lots of conversations. Yeah, I mean, he knows a lot more about cricket than I do.
His proudest ever moment in the media is doing Test Match Special.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
The guest at lunchtime. Everything else he's ever done in media is secondary to being the guest on Test Match Special.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising, but because now you see, obviously, before he became a radio presenter and then a TV presenter on the other network across the dial, he was only ever on the back foot, wasn't he? He was always talking about Brexit with people who didn't like Brexit in the media, and he always seemed to be sort of a broken record. Ah, there you go again. But actually, he has a hinterland, as he's been showing. He doesn't just talk about Brexit anymore, and I think that must have come into his equation here of accepting this job on ITV, because he reaches an Anton Deck audience of people that simply don't know him well enough. I think he'll come out of this well, and because people want to see him covered in kangaroo knackers and, bits of strawberry jam and all sorts of other terrible stuff, he might go through to the final at this stage, right?
It wouldn't surprise me at all. It really wouldn't surprise me at all. He's got a thick skin. He doesn't take himself wildly seriously. He takes what he does seriously, but not himself, and I think that's what people don't get right about it. Because his position was very much niche initially, but as I say, he's decent to people as well. You talk to the people who used to work for him at LBC, at GB News, all his staff sing his praises massively because he treats people well, and that side of him doesn't come across in an aggressive 7 o'clock in the morning radio interview with the Today programme.
That's right.
So what you're seeing is, weirdly, though it's in such a staged and ridiculous situation, but what you're seeing is much more a real person than the slightly stage managed, but also because, as you say, he's always on the defensive, he comes across as a little bit defensive in that sort of interview. Here, he's just having fun.
So we knew full well that the other celebs would have a pop at him. Fred Sirius.
Fred's been pretty damn rude about him.
Yeah, he doesn't like him. I mean, he's French, he's a Remainer, and doesn't like what he's done to Britain, all this kind of thing.
I doubt the Frenchness is such a problem, given other aspects of Nigel's life. So that really isn't.
You might say Nigel's as French as Fred. I mean, the word Farage is a Huguenot name, isn't it?
If I'm right, I think it's Huguenot, but I think they came over as an organ builder for churches.
All right, okay.
Was one of his ancestors, was commissioned from abroad to come to the UK to make some organs.
Very good.
And they stayed.
Oh, that's fascinating. Now, and also, not just Fred having a pop at Nigel, but also the YouTube influencer, Nella Rose. We've got a clip of Nella Rose having a pop at Nigel. Let's have a look at this.
Apparently you're anti-immigrants.
Who told you that?
Oh, the internet.
Oh, well, there we are, then. It must be true. It must be true.
It must be.
It must be true.
OK, but then why don't black people like you?
You'd be amazed they do.
So everyone hates you for no reason? Well, not that everyone hates you. That was so bad. But like, sorry, that sounded bad.
You can disagree with somebody, but to chuck around accusations the way that they've been chucked around is grossly unfair. Anti-immigrant, right? No. All I've said is we cannot go on with the numbers coming to Britain that are coming. Do you know why?
I'm one of the numbers.
Right. So that's it then.
This is a very important point as well, Gawain. The idea that people who are black or Jewish or Irish don't think in a block. This terrible identity politics idea that you have to be. It
is this idea.
It's awful, isn't it? And that little conversation there of 30 seconds rather summed it up. I mean, for example, there's a big movement in the United States of blacks for Trump, for example.
Yep. Oh, and Trump's votes particularly the Hispanics shot up at the last.
Yeah, the Latinos voted in a big way for Donald Trump, didn't they?
But I think Nella, she's young. And this is not her field of expertise. And she has been, as she pointed out, the internet told her that Nigel was all these things. And of course, the internet tells you all sorts of things, depending on which bit of the internet you look at, of course. But he responded with humour and then came back with facts. And as he was explaining facts, her mouth opened and opened and opened as if it was going to catch one of those snakes that are going around over there. It was very telling that she had never thought about the subject. She had just been told something and parroted it back. And that, I think, is very telling. And but the way Farage just responds to that sort of stuff is patiently and calmly. He has the amount of hecklers he's had to deal with in his life. You do a street walk with him during an election campaign, and he will go over to talk to the people who are disagreeing with him, who are shouting in his direction. As long as they aren't rude, he's prepared to debate and discuss with anyone. And he has a huge experience in doing so. But you mentioned his hinterland. I've worked for a lot of politicians over the years. Most of them you talk to for half an hour so they can talk to an interview for 5 minutes. With Farage, it's the other way around. You talk to him for 5 minutes, and because of his hinterland, he's able to synthesize information from all different aspects and come up with something cohesive and sensible. Very few can do that, and so this format is going to just play into his hands.
Gawain, you have a little insight into his future. It seems rather clear and bare naked, and he couldn't say it because he is a politician, and of course the factors, the variables could go all over the shop. But he sees an opportunity in the resignation of Suella Braverman and in the disenfranchised Conservative voters who say things like, it's not my party anymore, but they would be tempted if people like Nigel Farage, Suella Braverman and Boris Johnson returned to the front benches of the Tory party, even if they were in opposition. He's going to the Tories, isn't he?
No.
No?
I very much doubt it. I very much doubt it. No,
it's an opportunity for him.
It is, but the Tory party is useless at core. There's a fig leaf of a bunch of backbenchers who hold vaguely conservative opinions, not putting the tax rates sky high, not allowing 700,000 people to come into the country, not forcing everybody to have dreadful cars and dreadful heat pumps in their houses in order to chase the vanity of net zero. And these people who think of themselves as conservative, and they vote for the Conservative Party, they're voting for a party that has literally done the opposite of anything that anybody conservative would ever have thought of. One is surprised they haven't abolished the monarchy. So it's the machine that is dead. There are good people there, but it's the machine that is dead. And though he was flirting with the Tories, he get to their conference, and poor old Rishi had to say, yes, I'd be happy to have him back in the Conservative Party. Can you imagine you're the Prime Minister and you're having to say, yeah, OK, we'd have Farage.
You know what, Gawain? In 2019, he saw what happened to the 2017 election, where Theresa May really cocked it up and declared a hung parliament when she was supposed to win it, and Corbyn got his moment of power there. And then in 2019, he stood down all the Brexit Party candidates in order that Boris could get victory. And now we're starting to see the Reform Party getting 9 and 10% of the popular vote. He's going to do it again, isn't he? I mean, Richard Tyson, the gang are going to do it again, aren't they?
There's no way that reform is going to stand down.
Really? They keep saying that, but we're a bit early doors, aren't they?
I'm 100% certain of that.
But that intransigence would mean that there would be a Labour victory, which they wouldn't want, would they?
But it doesn't matter. What's the difference? The Tory party have put the taxes to the highest rate since the war. The Tory party are the people who've let 700,000 people across our borders. Labour never did.
So they want the Tories to be in opposition so that they can take it over. Isn't that the strategy here? I'm trying to get to a bit of common sense.
The strategy is for all the good the Tories have done over the last 300 years, no longer. There is nothing good about them. In fact, we are generally, if you look at election. There's a spattering, there's a handful, but they're not in power. They're not in control of the party, and with the party's selection processes and all the rest of it, the people who are getting even possible seats this time are on the left of the party and being selected. So the people who will be left will not be those people. And then you have the country as a whole over the last 70, 80 years. I think you just look at election results, is centre-right, but we do not have a centre-right party in Westminster representing them. They are not. And so therefore, when people tell me, oh, you'll just let Labour in, so what? Frankly, at least Labour are honest about what they want. Whereas later with the Tory party, say they're Conservative and then do basically left-of-centre policies. So frankly, they've had their chance. And they've really thought the Liberals would last forever when Lloyd George was in power.
Indeed, they didn't.
5 years later, gone.